Lamborghini Revuelto. It's the new V12 hybrid. From Lamborghini. Obviously this doesn't sound like a hybrid, but I promise you it is. The hybrid system is really just assisting it with getting up to speed, it's assisting the RPMs, and then you have about a 6-mile range on the battery. Now, with that 6-mile range, there's a new mode called Città or City, which basically tells you that, you know, you're going to be in E mode the whole time, at least until you get out of the city. Jesus Christ. So even though that this thing is a hybrid, it still feels like the soul of a Lamborghini. Now, you could be cruising along, you'll feel some of the hybrid assist, but what you really feel the most about this car compared to the Aventador is the dual clutch transmission. Now, with all of the Aventadors, they had the single clutch transmission that always threw you back in your seat. It was super violent, but it was also a feeling that a lot of people liked. This is different because it's more comfortable and easy when shifting. It doesn't throw you back in your seat as much, but it still is brutally sporty, I should say. Now, with all of the electric assists, you have all-wheel drive in this car, obviously. There's 2 electric motors in the front, 1 in the back. The one in the back is mated to the gearbox to help it with the RPMs. The 2 in the front each produce about 120 horsepower each. Those only kick in, however, when you're in Corsa to unlock the full 1001 horsepower. While you're in Sport, you're basically driving with about 800 horsepower, and then in City you have about 180 to 200. So one of the things about this car, when you look on the interior, it's a very nice place to be. I mean, you have all of the leather everywhere. You have the leather seats in this specific spec. Some of them will be spec'd with Alcantara. You have the dry carbon everywhere. Now, when I first saw this car at the launch, one of the first things that I thought was all of this dry carbon everywhere looks like plastic. And I do have to say that I do still stand by that. I feel like the dry carbon still, while it's carbon fiber, it still feels a little cheap. I wish it was gloss carbon. I hope that Lamborghini offers a gloss carbon option, but I can also see where they wanted to pull out all the stops with the carbon fiber. So we're here today with the Hamilton collection. This is their Revuelto, and we're actually going for a drive with the Chiron Super Sport behind us. And as they pass us, goddamn, I love that thing. Another thing that I will say is that with the amount of horsepower, with the hybrid drivetrain, it's not as loud in the higher gears as you would expect with, you know, like the SV and the SVJ. However, it gets you to 100 really fast. And when you get there, you're just cruising. It's not difficult. It's not super rough and raw like how the SV and the SVJ are. This is actually super, super simple. It feels a lot like a Grand Tourer almost. It feels like the Huracan because of the dual clutch transmission and because of the way that it's built. So driving the Revuelto in the rain right now because we caught some bad weather, but speaking on that, the Aventador always felt like it wasn't comfortable and that it would slide out in the rain. This right now is actually feeling super planted and super comfortable in the rain. Now that may be because of the dual clutch and the hybrid working together to create a seamless and comfortable drive. I think the transmission has a lot to do with it, only because the dual clutch really assists compared to the single clutch, because when the single clutch would upshift or downshift, it would basically punch you in the face, and every time that happened, there's a chance that you lost traction. So with the smoother transmission, I would say that it handles a lot better in the rain. So one of the things that a lot of people, including myself, were worried about with the hybrid is that it wasn't going to sound as good. But I can say with utter confidence that this thing sounds very good for what it is. I mean, yes, it's not as loud, it's not as wailing as the SVJ or the SV, but this thing screams. And as you've seen in some of the polls that we've already done, it's a really, I wouldn't say high pitch, it's a lot lower pitch than some of the other Aventadors. But that V12 definitely sings. One of the other things that Lamborghini implemented with this car was it's basically a carbon fiber monocoque chassis and a little bit of the front struts as well for the hybrid system. It's 20% stiffer and 20% lighter than the old Aventador and even the Huracan. So one of the things that I really hate about this car, yes, the center console is a lot cleaner. It's not as in your face and too many buttons as the last one, but they put it all on the steering wheel now. So now you have 4 different knobs on the steering wheel. They're very confusing personally. I mean, yes, the right top is the hybrid EV, the recharge or the EV performance mode. The bottom is like for your wing position and how much aero and downforce you want to have. And then you also have like a button for that one that has bar mode, which is essentially their flex mode. The other thing that I should mention is that with these dials and knobs, it almost feels a little bit cheaper, but you still keep that Lamborghini sense. So with the Revuelto being Lamborghini's first actual hybrid, I anticipate something similar to the SF90, where they're sitting around $1 million, even though you have a sticker of 600,000. And with that sticker, I don't know if it'll stay there or if it'll sink. Like right now, the SF90 came out in 2021. And right now, you could buy an SF90 for $200,000 under MSRP. So that concerns me with the Lamborghini, because when you have a brand that's as historical as Lamborghini, to have just a straight, naturally aspirated, no hybrid assist V12, how does this affect the Lamborghini market and its desirability? I also think that depending on how much people are driving it, how hard people are driving it, also the tunes and stuff, how will that affect the hybrid powertrain? How will that affect the batteries? Because as I said, there are 3 motors in the car. What happens if one motor goes bad? Does the car get brick? Does it just stop working? What happens if you get stuck in the car? Because there's a lot of technology in the car that's very good. It's a good direction that Lamborghini's moving in. I just personally don't think that the first iteration of the Revuelto is the one to buy. Only because, yeah, it's cool at first, but at the same time, long term, look at what happened with the Aventador. Look at what happened with the Murcielago. All of the first iterations had a lot of problems with specific things. I anticipate that on the Revuelto, except I expect it to be costlier. I think the Revuelto is a lot better than the Aventador. I'll say that. And I'll say that it's better than the SVJ and the SV, even though if I were to buy any Aventador, it would be the SV. But Revuelto in itself, you can't really compare it to an Aventador. So as its own standalone model, as its own standalone car, does it carry the Lamborghini legacy? I think it does, because of the feeling that it gives you when you're driving. You still get that, oh shit, you're going. You get to 100 really fast, and it just feels and sounds like something crazy. V12, obviously, Lamborghini, Revuelto. There's really no words that need to be said about this car, but I'm going to say them anyways. 1,000 horsepower, hybrid support, dual clutch gearbox for the first time on a V12. I mean, this thing is perfection, right? I'm comparing it to the Aventador S, the SV, the SVJ, and the Ultimate. This thing blows it all out of the water. The dual clutch does so much for this car. It's incomparable. I mean, the closest thing that I could compare it to is a Huracan, which for a V12 that's pushing 1,000 horsepower is kind of crazy. You have the styling cues from the Scion, the limited edition V12. You've got insane aero, and this color. I mean, somebody called Bruce Wayne because we stole his car. This is such an angular car. That's the only thing that I could use to describe it. It's what it is. It's an angle, you know? The air flows immediately from the front, through the wheel, into the side skirt, under the side skirt, through here, onto the engine bay, which, by the way, is not covered. The two jet engine turbine-like exhausts are burning hot at all times. For some reason, I feel like this car emits more heat than the Aventador. The back, the taillights, when pressed, illuminates the engine bay, makes it look like a bull. It's those tiny details that Lamborghini has added with this car to make it just a different level of car. You don't need the 1,000 horsepower. I was driving this thing around all weekend in sport mode, and I was more than happy. It was super comfortable. You had enough speed. You had everything going for it. The minute you put it in Corsa, you feel that dual clutch change. It's no longer just smooth where you're going along. The hybrid system is supporting it as much. No, this is balls to the wall, just going. You feel like it's a single clutch. You feel that kickback, similar to how the 812 has. You feel everything about this car illuminated with the amount of power that comes off of it. If you want to get your hands on one of these or sell one of these, hit us up over at Took the Apex. We'll take care of you. We have the clientele. We know the people. I have to say, as somebody that was skeptical about this specific car, it's blown all my expectations away.